This is the industrial side. Most industrial businesses are either won or lost in the day-to-day operations. These are conversations with the operators who run these firms, talking about how they run them, what works, and what doesn't.
Right, Justin Samaniego. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm very well, Brian. How's your day going, man?
Very good. I got home today like 1 or 2 hours earlier than I thought I would, which almost never happens. So that's what means today is meant to be a day to celebrate.
Yes, sir. We celebrate with.
So you're director, you're on the product side, right? And you work within a large distribution company, Medline.
Yes.
Say the name. Most people are familiar with that company, one of the larger medical product distribution companies in the world.
Yes.
And you've worked for other distribution companies. And so on this show, we like to talk about distribution, manufacturing, and other sort of like real economy businesses that help bring products from manufacturer to customer. And so you've got a lot of exposure about the go-to-market side of this, the digital side of this. And so that's kind of where I want to dive in with you today. And so like, I think that it's kind of interesting. Like, I think that usually when you think about digital, you're thinking about SaaS. And when you think about the most boring, unsexy businesses in the world, you think maybe manufacturing and then distribution.
Sure.
But you have a role in digital within distribution. Why is that even necessary?
I mean, I think I don't know. I think with distribution and manufacturing, relationships still matter, right? And I think they go a long way. And I think these companies I work for, whether it's present or past, have always relied on relationships. But there are different ways we interact with each other, right? That's part of our personal lives that are making their way into the workplace. I'd say probably a little bit more behind than maybe other industries, but nonetheless, like, hey, like digital is a thing that we do, like as consumers and during, as personal in our personal lives. So it's natural that it comes into the workplace. So, I think, especially I think in healthcare and where I'm at right now, there's a lot more regulation and compliance when it comes to how you manage data. So I think that makes sense there. But it's inevitable. And I think digital it depends on who you're talking to, but we have devices, whether it's mobile devices or laptops or whatever we can think of, but we interact with them all the time. And how do we use that kind of technology to interact in the workplace? So I think it's a natural progression for sure.
Yeah. And I think that like, in a lot of ways, a lot of people are seeing value in distributors through being able to get somebody on the phone quick who has the inventory that they need. And so they say distributors as order takers. And so if you start to digitalize that, I guess, like, where is the human element still needed in that process?
It's interesting. I'd say there's probably I'm probably oversimplifying this, but there are two kinds of sales reps, right? There are like the problem solvers, complex problems, maybe looking for the next opportunity. And I'd say there's another type of sales rep that maybe does the more tactical, order taking, maybe doing things that are repetitive and predictable, right? And so there's also a lot of different sales reps in between, but I'd say when it comes to skill set and experience, I think you have to I think using digital can help maybe handle the repeat requests. The same purchase order that a customer gives me every month, the pricing is the same. You can probably put that customer on a website or some sort of mechanism to automatically place that order. And I'd rather help you, Brian, who is looking for maybe a new solution for the new distribution center that they're launching or opening up in Southern Illinois. And they need help standing up some things that they need from us and need consultative, maybe expertise there. So, I think when it comes to digital opportunities, let's set aside the things that are predictable, things that I know I need that could be handled, on automation. And I can tackle some of this white space, maybe opportunities where I don't know what it looks like, but let me help you walk it through. I'd rather spend that kind of time there. But, some sales reps gravitate towards that. Some others are a little bit scared of that. But I think that's where you want to embrace digital to help you set aside time to go after these complex problems rather than doing these boring, every day, quoting the same things or ordering the same things. You can do that kind of stuff on a website, for example.
Yeah. So like, I guess maybe to bring it back to a specific example, like if some home health company wanted like 100 catheter bags and just like a bunch of like wound care bandages, and they know what they need, they know the product number probably by hand, and they don't need any advice at all.
Yeah.
Like they don't need to talk to a human being versus a customer that has something where maybe they don't even know exactly what the specifics are of what they need.
Yeah.
maybe they have a customer that, I don't know, maybe they need something that they don't even know the product. They don't even know what brand they're thinking of. They just know the use case. And
Yep.
so they want to talk to someone who knows their industry that
Yep.
would be able to essentially walk them through it and decide, okay, yeah, based on what you're saying, you probably need this or this. We represent these four manufacturers. Here are the options. And we
Yep.
can get it to you by this time.
I think
So
it's a
it's
good.
like the
Something like
difference
that
between
actually.
that and the other one.
I'll get even more specific. I mean, the area that I'm dabbling in, think about, maybe I oversee a supported living community or a nursing home, and I have a set list of incontinence items that I have to buy on a monthly basis, right? And I think that's where it's like, okay, let's set the items and price and make sure that we're good as far as what we're getting you and have the availability. And that's set in stone. But then it's like maybe I think the route where we can use digital and be more like a proactive sales rep is, help you understand the levels of inventory that you need to make sure that you're properly you have the right amount of items in your inventory in any given day or any given hour. And right, so we can use digital and figure out what kind of reporting, what kind of tools that we need to be able to so there's ebbs and flows as far as supply and demand. But can we use digital to help you manage like your patient care needs, your inventory needs, make sure you're not running out of stuff, but also making sure you're not over ordering based on what we know on your purchase history, your residents and your patients and how they behave, and get some almost like historicals. I think that's where we can use digital and start talking about being like proactively managing stuff. And, Brian, when you think about maybe some of our smaller, medium-sized healthcare providers, at least with like the customers who deal with Medline, I'm not an inventory person,
Yeah.
right? I'm a person's giving need. I need to make sure that this person's life is going well, or they're providing needs that maybe aren't like for terminal people, but I'm providing care. But I'm not an inventory person. I'm not like I just I want to press a button and get things going. But there's probably some sort of knowledge you need to have to be able to like, okay, I don't want to order too much, or I don't have too little. I don't want to make sure I have limited space. I don't have much storage. So how do I make sure that I have the right amount of stuff at the right time for the people I'm providing care to every day, right? So I think that's where, as a sales rep, I can help them, understand the problems they're trying to solve, and then engage someone like me, Justin, who's in digital, who might be able to help them as far as like what digital tools might we use to be able to help you as part of being a customer with someone like Medline or any previous kind of company. So I think there's some power there.
Yeah, and I'm curious in terms of the customer adoption, like because basically, I mean, whether it's AI or it's just some sort of like out of the box solution that maybe your inventory management system can use, like if a customer could truly just be notified without any human being looking at it, like you probably need this, this, and this based on your history, you want to order it. Like, I mean, that's useful. But at the same time, the rhetoric, or at least the story with a lot of these distribution companies, is that the value comes by having these unique relationships with your customers. So it's like you're just trading one thing off for another. Like you probably, a human being can't be relied on to say, like, I'm gonna call this home health company or this independent living company and say, like, you guys need 1,000 more like what of this item because I've been watching this like a hawk. But at the same time, it's like when customers can buy from anybody, the relationship part's important. So I guess like how do you differentiate essentially like what you're trying to remove with technology versus what needs to remain to have the relationship?
I think I could equate this to either my experience currently, right, at Medline, or even previous distribution companies. I think when it comes to like launching a new digital tool, it's not going to be a foolproof automated solution from the get-go. It's probably more of like an MVP or a minimum viable product, right? Let's build something that we know has core capabilities, but we need human intervention, right? So I'm trying to think. I'll go back to there was in a previous company I was building, or I had a team that was building a self-service tool to help them manage their inventory related to industrial supplies. And before we actually went to the customer, we started off with employees, because the thought was, hey, if employees can use this, they actually represent the customer, and in turn the customer can use it. But like, let's just build something that we know has core capabilities and then learn as we go. And so it equates, eventually we got it to the customer, right? But it was, hey, let's make sure our employees who are servicing our customers and helping their inventory let's actually work with them and build a capability, like a self-service, basically an app and a website. Let's see if they can use it first, and they also represent the customer because they know the pain points, but let's not build it completely like automated or a full-fledged solution. Instead, Brian, let's just build something that is good enough and then learn from our employees on what works and what doesn't, and then we can iterate from there. And so I think it's actually powerful that like we have a digital tool, but you actually the approach we took with the employees, which we ended up doing with customers later on, is let's actually build it with them. And so we can use a relationship and build a relationship and actually like, okay, can you actually help us figure out like, what words we use in this app that we're building or the website that we're building? Like, does this user interface actually make sense? And then how do we actually talk to our customers about it? But you can actually build relationships as you build the tool. And what we found, at least with our employees, is they were more than happy to give us feedback. I think the same thing we're doing right now in my current roles, we're building kind of like a similar type of like inventory management, patient usage type of management tool, and working with customers and getting their feedback on how might we build this. Some things that we're going to build now and some things we're going to build later, but they're more than engaged in helping us understand what works for them and what doesn't. And if anything, they're pretty upfront with like, hey, these are like the 3 things that I need now, and then actually there's a couple other things that I need, but I can wait until later. Figure out we have to talk to more than one customer, Brian, but that's where it's kind of like, hey, we're building digital tools, but we're not like replacing your sales rep. If anything, it's like, hey, we're building a tool that we think will work and help you out, but we have to like learn from you. Like you actually have to use it to help us learn, but then we also need to get more than just you. We have to get enough customers to use it to kind of figure out where we want to go. We have an idea, we have an hypothesis we want to go, but if anything, like the relationship's like, hey, I'm getting customers giving us feedback into something we're building as an offer that we'll give to other customers and actually find value in doing that. They're more than willing to show us the current tools and systems and processes that they have to help us actually like do business with them better. Like we have the reputation. They worked with us for a long time. The relationship's still there, but like, hey, they see some value add in this tool. Like they're going to help us build it instead of building something that doesn't make sense to them. So
yeah, so it sounds like you're focusing more on like jobs to be done, and you're less trying to figure out like you're not even trying to answer the question that I asked, like how much should be automated, how much should be not. You're essentially just trying to put a solution in front of the customer and let them guide you to like,
it
does
is.
this work or does this
It's
not work?
automation, but it's like I think we need human intervention in the beginning. And obviously there's AI, but you need engagement and adoption. I think you need to build some trust with the digital tool through human relationship. And then, yeah, over time, right? Maybe in the industrial space or manufacturing space and distribution, it's probably going to take some more time. But I think there's just, we have to build a database of interactions before we can think about any sort of like full automation. So it's almost like right now it's probably a little bit more manual, and think about what we're building now versus even what we built like in past companies. But like, let's just start where there's some level automation, but like let's not make it, we don't know what we're fully automating yet, Ryan, right? Like, let's not get fancy. Let's like give you a tool that helps you manage your inventory and how you're issuing out, care. But like, let's learn from you as far as like, what are the repeat things you're doing? Because we might have to, before we automate anything, we have to make sure the user interface makes sense, right? Like the buttons work, the things like align with your processes, and then we can go from there. So yeah, I think automation is going to take a little bit more time. It'll get there, but I don't know what the percentage is if that's what you're looking for. But
yeah, and I think maybe like to switch it up a bit. I mean, like, you're talking about like pretty massive, like globally leading companies. But if we're talking about a company that's maybe distributing industrial supplies, medical supplies, could be agricultural supplies, doing maybe let's say 10 to 50 million in revenue.
yeah,
And they're doing a lot of this through request for quote or for just like somebody's reaching out to a specific sales rep who's tied to a region or a territory. And they want to start looking at going this direction. I guess like where would you start? Because I think some of this is like there probably is an expectation for a larger company like the ones that you work for to be a leader in technology. But when you're on the smaller side, it could be useful, but the customer's not necessarily ready for that kind of transition. So I guess
yeah,
what would you recommend as like where do you start from day one? A lot of these companies don't have anybody in product. They don't
yeah,
have anybody in digital. They have sales, they have marketing, they have customer service, and there's
yeah,
maybe somebody in the best case that's like a CRO or something like that that's trying to combine the 3,
sure,
or but in many cases there's not. So
yeah.
like how do they walk before they How do they crawl before they walk, before they run?
Yeah, I'll start with the time when I was like in the industrial space, working for like a large B2B distribution company, and I'd say like it's almost like start small, and then you either say like iterate fast or fail fast, but it's almost like start small. And I think there's always going to be a sales leader or a customer service leader that has a problem, and maybe it's the VP, or they have regions, or there's customers that are probably in a certain segment or a certain geographic location that there's just a problem, right? And I think in the past, the one problem is kind of like, hey, we overextended on providing a lot of employee-led inventory solutions. Like, hey, we're going to send employees out to help you, like with your inventory management. But it's almost like, oh, we probably over-indexed and went to like, hey, we might have incentivized sales reps, customer service reps to get everyone signed up. But it's actually, you know what? There's a certain size of customer that should probably like get the attention that we're giving them with sending out a full-time employee. We almost over-indexed. Now it's like, oh my God, wait a minute. We need help with some of our smaller customers where we shouldn't send someone out that's like an hour and a half away from maybe where the rest of their territory is to do the solution that actually probably doesn't cost much. We probably have to let's see if we can build something that a customer can use if they're willing to, but like it's so far out, maybe small. Let's try to give a self-service tool for these customers to use instead of sending out an employee, right? And so when I think about that, if there's a problem, maybe we don't know exactly the problem. Maybe it's more of like a cost reduction, but it's, hey, we over-index in sending out full-time employees to help out with some of these customers. A lot of times, actually, like customers can't have someone go out. Like I thought about, there's prisons, for example, we went to. Prisons don't allow employees to go in. They need a self-service solution. So, okay, maybe I work with a leader who happens to have a lot of prisons or spaces like governmental agencies where we can't actually send full-time employees. And let's work with them. How might we actually introduce a self-service tool that might help the customers? Because it's so hard for us to get into the facility. They'd actually rather have something to use instead of us sending someone out. Because every time I send out an employee, you have to go through, 4 checks. Right. And then actually I have to like escort them. Just give me an app or a tool. And by the way, also it needs to be offline because I don't have internet access and certain. You can learn these things, but it's like let's test it small and start small. There's these certain type of customers that like physically or just like by compliance it's hard for them to get employees in. Let's give them a technology and start there. And I'd say like that you have a segment. You have a story, it works. You start seeing either, you using an adoption and maybe they convert some orders using your technology, Brian. And then that's where you have your success story. And it's like, okay, Brian, we built this. Now, who else do you think might want this? And then you go into storytelling. You start sharing this. And then there might be another customer service leader or sales leader that's like, oh, wait a minute, I have another problem. I actually have these like really territories where I have sales reps or customer service reps. It's really hard for them just to cover everything. Maybe we can start attacking these rural, customers. These customers are really hard to reach out to. So, I mean, and I think this is probably where you can use data too, right? So there's probably like, I don't know if you use it digital, but there is ways you can use data to segment your customers. And then maybe there's ways you can look at profitability, or you just talk to your customer service reps or sales reps and you can ask them where they can start, but usually there's a leader you can latch on to. I'm not going to go after the whole country, Brian, but there's probably like there's some cities in Illinois that fall under one sales leader that we can talk to first, and the sales leader is really like willing to talk to us and start there. You know what I mean? So you can look at all the data, but it's usually a leader that will come forth if you present kind of some opportunities where, hey, we can build you something. This is what we're thinking, but like, where might we start? So probably a long-winded answer, but that's my idea of starting small. Like there is a problem to be solved, and you can always find a leader within a big company that somewhat gets how the product works, but they don't know how to do it, but they appreciate it. And they're willing to test things on customers, and maybe they're not the biggest customers too, Brian. I wouldn't go after these large customers. Let's not try to fix something that's not broken in there. Let's start smaller, maybe lower risk, or maybe, and sometimes there's customers that are willing to do it themselves and they'd be happy to guinea pig. That's usually easy to find as well. But it takes some time. I think you have to get aligned with your sales leader and customer service leader first. I feel like they own the customer relationships. So let's work with them first. And usually that's the route I go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the goal, it's like this talking about this, the goal is not necessarily to like automate customer relationships. It's more so like the goal can't be to just add headcount to get more customers, for eternity. I mean, that's not scalable at all. So like there has to be some idea of like what part of the nurturing, what part of the like basically maybe re-engaging potential prospects could be automated versus who needs a human being to guide them from prospect to customer.
Yeah.
And so all these tools, they're meant to essentially like make that more efficient so that basically more growth could be realized every quarter.
Yeah. And I think the complexity is in the human relationship. I think sometimes maybe we overcomplicate things and I think there's so many steps, but it could be like that triggered, like, I think how we interact with customers in like day-to-day tasks. I think sometimes how do I say this? I think I'm trying to think if I say this with my current company or previous, but there are steps to how, like, when customers have questions and they're trying to find answers, it's not always easy to find on a website, right? And that's why they have to call us to do it. And so working with distribution companies, I think there's like, hey, we have the relationships, I can provide them value. But it's like, well, actually, there's ability. We can do this online, and actually, sometimes we can't. Maybe we actually understand that to be able to return a product is really hard, or I can't do it on our website, so I have to call someone. But why don't we make that actually easy for someone? Or if they're trying to return something, we can provide them information on a website or through a chat. And at some point, okay, we can intervene, but let's actually give them information to at least initiate something on their own instead of having to call us. And so I'd say that's probably the theme I've seen just with like previous companies, is just like, we don't make it easy for you to do things on yourself, but you should be able to do it. Similar to how we do things as a consumer side, right? Like, I'm not going to go on the extreme. Like, Amazon's really hard to find a contact number, but it's actually easy to initiate things, at least on their website, when it comes to customer service related issues like returns or, damaged goods. And I think with larger companies, we make it really hard to do that for customers, and they're forced to call us. And so how do you make it easier for them? And then you unpack it. It's actually, it's different steps. As a sales rep, I have to talk to a customer service rep, and customer service rep has to talk to 3 other people, right? Like, and sometimes these processes are so complicated, but there's still ways digitally, Brian, to make this easy for the customers. And I think that's another opportunity where we can look at digital. Like, there are daily tasks that we do. What's the current state? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, there's probably a better way we can do this in T of the customer. And so there are opportunities there. I'm trying to think of a way. I don't know if I have a specific thing I can talk about, but that your comment kind of triggered me. Like, there's our day-to-day stuff that we do that could easily, like,
well, you could even talk about an IVR when someone calls in. I mean, like, you could make it easier to get to a human being or harder. And I think some people think about this in terms of like, if you prioritize customer service, you're prioritizing basically service costs. Like, versus like if you try to minimize customer service, you're minimizing service costs.
Yeah.
So why should you prioritize customer service? Like, does it even matter?
I don't know. I think I guess, I mean, it depends. I love customer service. So that's, I think first impressions for me are big. I don't know. I think it depends. I think as a business to business person, I think I would value the customer service because I'm a paying customer. I don't know. Maybe that was a rhetorical question, Brian. I think it depends. I think it depends on what kind of product you're buying and service. And like, as a consumer, I probably have lower expectations on customer service when I'm a consumer versus if I'm like a B2B. Maybe I'm trying to put myself in a buyer's hat or a purchaser's hat.
Yeah. Because I mean, with B2C, I mean, a lot of times the value driver is not so logical. I mean, there's probably just like brand association, or like there's something beyond, like, I'm not logically saying Disney is the best company to work with. I need to work with Disney.
Yeah.
It's not based on X's and O's. But with B2B, it is a little bit more. I mean, there is a
rep, right? I mean, for such a big company, a sales rep is perfect because they can help you navigate, right? Like, or I don't have to worry about the hierarchy or how you guys are organized, because you can just do that for me and just bring me an answer or a decision maker that can help us get a resolution on, something that's missing or something that's not working, right? So I think that's why that's the relationship. So
I mean, I think the real point is just like there can be an over indexing on maybe like automation and digital and AI to try to like cut costs to the nth degree, but at some point you have to like really understand what your value driver is to the customer, because if you're eroding that by automating things, then
I think
you can't really win that way.
What am I automating if I don't know what the problems I'm trying to solve?
Right.
I think my comments earlier, right, with like, okay, if we're building something, like start smaller segment, I think it's kind of like when I think about like a sales cycle, or even a customer service cycle, you can probably figure out maybe how to automate or refine the beginning part. Like maybe I don't want to automate how a customer, sends bad feedback or returns or whatever, but like I can at least, let's give them the power to initiate something and then we can have a human intervene. But I think you can start like even with like data, let's give you insights. Let's just show you how you're doing business or your tendencies or trends, and then we can go there and get your reactions, right? So I think it's almost like teeing up an insight or teeing up a prompt to get them closer to what they're looking for. I think that's probably a great way to start. And then you can figure out the whole, but right, like if a sales cycle or a customer service cycle is 5 steps, just focus on the first step first. And you can get tons of insights from the customer based on how they react to that first step and your attempt to automate, or like, hey, I'm going to automatically tee up something. That could be your first level automation. Right. I'm going to automate a prompt, or I'm going to automatically give you the tool to be able to connect with your sales rep or your customer service rep. But I'm going to give you the power to initiate it. So every time, and then pass along the information to someone who can help you. You know what I mean? That could be a great way to go. But you can't automate everything, but if you don't, especially if you don't know what problems you're trying to solve. And I think it's it's the behaviors you're trying to drive. Like you learn from one step or starting small, or you're starting with a prison, right? Like you start with that small customer, but that's all it starts. And I think a lot of people go after, trying to solve for the world or, putting a solution in place. But I don't know, Brian, I think people don't have, maybe with at least what I've seen, unless you have an in-house team of engineers, like you might just buy something that's out of the box and you don't have the ability to actually like iterate or refine things. I don't have developers. I'm just buying something out of the box and then, here we go. So that might be an issue. Like I don't have the luxury of having these resources. I don't know how digital works. I'm just buying something out of the box. And then anytime I have an issue, I call my SaaS provider, or I call the consulting company that implemented this, and I hope they have time to develop this thing that I think will help me. I think that's challenges I think I've seen in the past where I've come into a team or a team's been built because I think in the past they didn't have ability to do things themselves. It's like, okay, maybe it actually makes sense to bring someone in-house or bring in this discipline to help us build something that's a little bit better, or have the ability to build something over time and not just like launch something and be done with it.
I mean, that's a good point. I mean, like, let's say like the opposite end of the spectrum from the type of companies you're working for. Like, say it's a distribution company, the whole sales process is in the rep's head, and they kind of know who to contact with each customer because they've talked to them for 10 years. And so it's between their phone and their brain where all the information lives.
Yep.
Like what should they be starting with to get a little bit more efficient?
I don't know. I mean, I think a CRM is probably I don't know. I think with sales reps, I think it's like a blessing and a curse. I think sales reps probably see a CRM or some sort of database as a negative thing, right? So I think about like if it's in my head or notes on my computer or in a notebook, like I think putting stuff in some sort of like centralized database or customer relationship management tool is big. It seems very mundane and administrative, but it's like I used to be a sales rep, and when I came into a company, into a territory, and the previous sales reps didn't capture notes, it was really frustrating to me because I had a blank slate, but this customer was buying from me, but I knew nothing about them. I don't know where it's going to be some time where I see with at least B2B distribution companies, but like when you have customer data in our systems, I think it's very powerful. At some point, you do have the ability to understand who your customer is. And even like what is it? Like at some point you want to get a full picture of your customer, how they're interacting with customer service, and they're probably using SAP, and how they're interacting with sales rep and CRM. But like if we don't have any data in our systems, we can't really do anything. So maybe it's more power to the sales rep or the customer service rep because they have all the knowledge and understand the customers. But I think when you have data in a tool or consolidated tool, maybe it's not beneficial for the sales rep or customer service rep, right? Because they're probably incentivized to, close the deal, have a call in X amount of time or have as many Y amount of visits in a given week, right? So they're probably not concerned about that. But for people like me, it helps me understand the interactions, right? How often are you interacting with customers? What are you guys talking about? Maybe I can relate your customer notes to how they're buying from us. And then maybe I can tee up things in your CRM on things you might want to talk about that you're not talking about because they're not. So maybe they're buying incontinence, kits and items, and there's order history, but actually like based on how sales reps are having conversations with similar customers in the nursing home, you also should be talking about, how do I like clothes or textiles?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I'm going to tee that up to you in the CRM because in your conversation notes, I don't see anything about you talking about them textiles or like, clothing. That's powerful stuff, but like, there's a lot of moving parts to be able to get to that kind of thing. But it's like when you have data that you put in the system and you have some team like me to be able to access that, I think over time you can actually help sales reps. I think you can automate insights to them, give them triggers to talk to the customers about things. But it's tough when a sales rep is, having great conversations, but they're only captured on your local computer or in a notebook
Yeah.
as anywhere. And if I leave the company and I've been, working this book of business for 15 years and you bring in someone from college, great salesperson, but they have no history. So they're going to spend the next 2 years, trying to recap a relationship that customers built with us over the past 15 years. And it's like, well, I can just go somewhere else because I'm basically trying to start from scratch with you. So yeah, I think it's powerful. I'd love to have, people using the system, but again, it's tough to see that on the horizon when I'm incentivized to be selling stuff or providing solutions in a very fast time or doing X amount of visits to customers,
And part of that, I think, is having less just task-oriented conversations with salespeople and customer service people, because
so.
like they can't relate to the value of having like broader context or analytics or anything for the
Yeah.
conversations they've had. If their role is just to have those conversations, it's a waste of time at that point. Then to document
CRM's
because you just have
mostly
to keep going.
I think it's for just tracking your pipeline and number of calls that you make, and that's valuable, but I think there's definitely some, next level stuff you can do to like actually like harness that data,
Yeah.
the perspective that you're gathering from these conversations on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, like you can treat an SDR like an AA if you want to. I mean, you could ask them what they think about that customer, like
Yeah.
what's working, what's not working, like what could move the needle to get them from being a maybe to a yes,
Yeah.
or like is this even the right ICP,
Yeah.
or like are we kind of stretching to even try to sell this person,
Yeah.
and like that makes the idea of documenting so much a little bit more realistic versus if you're just supposed to just like go through the funnel, like first call, second call, third call,
Yeah.
like offer submitted, demo. Like
Yeah.
if you're just supposed to get through a funnel, then why would you even really need to leave a lot of context? Your goal is to get through as many funnels as possible in a
Yeah.
short enough time as possible. So
Yep.
there's really no point.
Yep.
Versus if your job is to actually think about what you're actually seeing and discuss it,
Yeah.
then it makes a lot more sense to be able to document that stuff and be able to intelligently talk about what was different from this customer or prospect from the other.
100%. And I think our like most sales reps and customer service reps, I mean, they're really good, I think, with like capturing the conversations. I think it's just really hard for maybe other people in the company to learn.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. And because the other problem is it shouldn't just be the CRM should have all the information.
Yes.
That's unrealistic as hell. I mean, like it's there could be if you just bring it to a conversation, yes, the CRM could have good notes that could trigger the whoever's interfacing with the customer to really remember the key points of what was discussed. But just like having an open account conversation about things
Yep.
is a lot more valuable than just trying to make the technology do all the work. It's
Yep.
supposed to make things easier. It's not supposed to replace the conversation.
100%. I agree.
Yeah. Well, this is great, man. I know that we could go on for hours and hours more. If people kind of want to reach out to you to talk more about this stuff, what's a good way to reach out? LinkedIn, email? What's
Yeah,
a good way to get in
LinkedIn's
contact with
great. That goes straight to my email, but you can always start with LinkedIn.
you?
That's the place for me. And I'd say, I think with my career starting in sales and then moving to sales operations, and I think now it's been a combination of, product marketing, product development on the digital side, and like go to market and even just kind of leading adoption, both internal and external. I think it's like happy to talk with anyone who either has advice for me as I'm still learning, as I navigate a new industry, a new company like Medline, great opportunities ahead. Or it's like, hey, maybe I'm someone who's starting to build a digital product practice, or I have a pretty lean team, but like, hey, I am in a similar space, manufacturing, B2B distribution. Like, how do you go about introducing digital capabilities, whether it's internally or externally, right?
Mm-hmm.
But usually my jam's usually with like tools that are like for customers, and I get to interact, I think, between executives and customer facing employees and the people that are building the widgets and digital tools. I love playing in that space, like we're all in a playground. we'll have toys, but we just don't know the language and how to share the toys. And I feel like I like playing that little space to be able to like, okay, let's figure out what problems we're trying to solve to help the customers. And I think I had challenges as a sales rep kind of early in my career, having a voice with the people that are building the digital tools. And now I'm in a position where it's like, oh, I can help the people who are talking to customers, maybe help them articulate what is the most important by understanding the problems they're trying to solve, but then get actually buy-in from the people who support the budget of our projects, but also the people that build the widgets and tools and be able to translate the needs from our customer facing employees to people that can actually enable that. So, I've had a lot of experience. I'm still learning, but happy to either get advice from people who are in the space or, have seen success, or to help others who are maybe kind of earlier on and maybe driving digital adoption and digital tools with like a legacy type of, distribution company or acts like it. So either way, but happy to connect for sure. And LinkedIn's definitely a great spot to start.
Awesome. No, I'll put all that in the show notes. Justin Samaniego, I really appreciate your time. This has been awesome.
Brian, appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Okay.
See you later.